So this first story comes to us from No Giraffe 1829. So when I was young, I happened to live in a big house with my family and my brother's family too, roughly 10 people total. It was a nice big house on the mountainside of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and it's a house where almost everyone who lived there at the time had encountered something paranormal. I shared a finished basement with my brother and my brother's cousin. My brother and I shared a bunk bed by the room's entrance, while my brother's cousin had his own bed in the far right corner of the room, on entering the room. We also had a couch on the left side of the entrance. One night, my brother and I felt uneasy, as we often did, and we decided to both sleep on the same side as his cousin, but beside his bed on the floor. I was in the middle, my brother was on the floor beside me, and on the other side of me was his cousin sleeping. Sometime throughout the night, I woke up feeling some odd anxiety as if there was something there. I leaned up and my mind made me look at the couch, and I saw a black, dark, grayish figure, visible outlines of a person, sitting in the corner on the couch closest to the entrance, hugging its knees to its head in the arms, looking down. I froze in fear and really couldn't think of what to do. I was around 9 years old at the time, but I did make out that it appeared to have a very similar physical shape and stature to my brother's cousin, who was sleeping right next to me on his bed. I laid back down, shaking uncontrollably, and even put the blanket above my head, thinking it would save me, but I couldn't bear the thought of it potentially walking towards me. So I slowly lowered the blanket again and leaned up, and there it was. I was in the same position, in the same seat, and its head was up and tilted, looking right at me. I couldn't see any eyes, but it still looked exactly like my brother's cousin. I was terrified, and I couldn't get my eyes off of it. I wanted to scream, but couldn't. It was about 2 minutes of me staring at it before I heard my stepfather and stepfather's cousin talking in the room next to mine with the door open. That alone gave me enough confidence to stand up and walk towards it, knowing that they would rush in if I screamed, and as I walked to it, it slowly disappeared with every foot I got closer until it was gone, just like that. I have a few stories from this place, but nothing as scary as what I have experienced there. But there was a time when I saw a foggy, white, tall creature in the dead middle of the room, which looked just like a bright white mist standing there. But I didn't feel scared. In fact, I was oddly comforted in this predicament. So what do you think it could have been? I've always speculated that I potentially saw my brother's cousin's spirit as he was asleep, referring to the phenomenon that the spirit leaves the body when you sleep. That's a very interesting story. I like it. Um, that's weird though, because I mean, it's a person that's right there. That's yeah, as good an explanation as any is, a phenomenon the spirit leaves the body when you sleep. Sure, I've never heard of that, but it sounds plausible. Okay. Okay, so the next story comes to us from Week Database 8576. My father was house sitting and woke up to the owner's dog barking his guts out. He looked around the room and froze when he saw these alien-looking shadow figures in the window. The dog was staring right at them and was visibly horrified. There was a sensation of utter and hopeless terror that washed over him, not just because of how scary the figures were, though. A big part of the terror was inexplicable as if it was a separate sensation that was added to this moment. Somehow he managed to sleep again after the figures left. When the owners got back, they asked how his stay had been. As he was describing this weird experience, the owner dropped his fork in horror. He had seen the exact same things a while back. The third story I have for you today is from Rye Guide Writer. My fiance and I lived at the top floor of this 4-story apartment. At the time, I was going to night school to finish my shift. It was like 11:30 at night, and she called me to tell me that someone was shaking our front door handle violently to try and get in. I checked the camera at my door, which was had every square inch covered, but there was nothing on the camera. So I put it on live view, and after a few seconds, the handle started violently shaking. Well, we heard it. I couldn't see it on camera, and she was in the furthest corner of the apartment with a shotgun pointed towards the only egress point. I got on my motorcycle and blew through every red light at the 4-something miles. Our house was a few miles away, and I made it in minutes. When the elevator to our door opened, I got this horrible, ominous feeling like something was in my throat. I rounded the corner. Nothing. Enter the house. Nothing. Decided it's all normal and tried to come up with logical explanations. a weird shot started happening. My fiance was following our tiny 19-year-old dog as she went under the bed. She got down on her knees and she wasn't there. She was on the couch like 20 feet away in the living room. Our closet was in the bathroom. It was a one bedroom, one bath. And our cat would sit in the tub facing the door, meowing loudly, angry like. Also, that door would never stay shut. You could shut it, lock it, and an hour or so later it would open. Yes, I checked it, but maybe it was just a draft or something, but nope. We saged and put salt out. It chilled for a bit, but then we came home and our recliner was turned completely from the separate ottoman facing the fish tank. We would find plates and shit in our drawers. It got so bad that we moved into the living room to get a better view of the house and to give her an office. One night I heard someone walking around our island, and I thought it was her. The next morning I was like, "Hey, Godzilla, good job stopping last night." She looked at me and shook. She thought it was me and didn't even get out of bed. You hit pockets of what smelled like rot or something and walked 5 feet away, and it would be gone, and then go right back and wouldn't be able to find it again. The end result, I don't know. Tons of other little things happened. Shit stuck, though, so we moved. Yeah, that's normally, when you hear about these sort of things, that's reminiscent of demonic possession with the smells. At least, from what I've studied, what I've heard, but it's interesting. It's kind of scary, but you moved, so good on you. All right, so the next story is Just Assistance 7001. To keep the story short, one day I was hanging out with my boyfriend and two of our friends who decided to bring a Ouija board to my friend's house. That was your first mistake. Okay. I was taught never to mess with one. So was I. So I just sat watching them play, and the first question they asked was who they were talking to. It ended up being my boyfriend's mama, which is what he called his grandma before she passed. I didn't think anything of it at the time. The group was asking questions to confirm that it was actually his grandma, and it answered everything correctly. I saw in my boyfriend's face that he was happy to be able to talk to her. Right before the session ended, the planchette kept going back and forth from M to A, spelling out mama very fast. At this point, this was where I knew what was happening. I told my boyfriend and our friends to say goodbye immediately. They asked why, and I told them it wasn't my boyfriend's grandma. It was a demon. My boyfriend started to laugh, but it wasn't his laugh. It was something more sadistic and evil. Scared for his life and all of ours, I came towards him, put my hand on the planchette, went to say goodbye. After that night, my boyfriend had an immediate mental decline. I'm not sure if it was him being sad that he thought he was talking to his grandma, or if it was him possibly being possessed for a short second, but he hasn't been the same since. See, and that's one reason, one of the many reasons, Ouija boards are not allowed to enter my house. There's too much that could go wrong. I realize for most people it's a game, it's a harmless entertainment, but no, I'm just gonna say no. The next story is from the XDX-Men. That's their name. Back in my adolescent semi-ghost hunting days, my friends and I went to a place known as the Witch's Circle. It was basically a really old, abandoned graveyard in some woods that was rumored to be where witches did rituals. We went because at the time my friend had seen ghosts, but it was the type of person who had seen a ghost for myself to believe in them. I always wanted to find one because my friend had some in his house, and I do not think he was lying. We would go to rumored haunted areas around the house, look for ghosts or paranormal things, then we would get fucked up. At the Witch's Circle, we brought a Ouija board, again, and played it. As expected from a group of adolescent boys, we started messing with each other almost immediately. Then we got fucked up and burned the Ouija board, which is a mistake. You're never supposed to burn those things because it's dangerous. And I realize a lot of people are going to think, you're stupid and you're just, you're being superstitious and whatever, but I don't know. If there is such a thing as a a presence with the Ouija board, why take the chance? Just don't. It's safer that way. But again, that's just my opinion. So anyway.